Thank you so much for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm Efrem Graham. Ahead today, the deadliest day yet in Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza, as a total of 24 Israeli soldiers lose their lives. And those deaths coming amid increasing pressure on Israel to see the hostages set free. Former President Donald Trump looking to make two big wins in a row today in the New Hampshire primary, as President Joe Biden makes abortion access a key element of his re-election campaign. And the growing power of Hinduism in India and the violence against Christians there. We're going to bring you a first-hand look. All those stories and more ahead today, right here on CBN Newswatch.
This is CBN Newswatch.
I want to begin this half hour in Israel with the deadliest day for the military since the war began in Gaza, as a total of 24 Israeli soldiers lost their lives. That comes as Israel is facing increasing pressure to end the war and to free the hostages. Even so, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remains firm in his conviction that Israelis will not stop the fighting until total victory is achieved. Here's CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl.
Israel awoke on Tuesday to the news of one of the worst days of the war in Gaza. 24 soldiers killed, most of them in an explosion that destroyed two buildings in the central Gaza Strip, taking the lives of 21 reservists.
The forces were operating in an area between the Israeli communities and Gaza, near the community of Kisufim. The forces were removing structures and terrorist infrastructure in the area approximately 600 meters from the border.
Initial findings indicate the soldiers were planting explosives in the buildings to bring them down and were still inside when terrorists fired an RPG, triggering the mines and causing the structures to collapse on top of those inside and nearby. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari said an investigation is continuing.
This war has a very painful and heavy price. The devoted reservists who rallied to the flag sacrificed everything for the security of Israel so that we all can live here securely.
In a statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "Yesterday we experienced one of the most difficult days since the outbreak of the war. I would like to stand by the dear families of our heroic fighters who fell on the battlefield. On behalf of our heroes, for our very lives, we will not stop fighting until total victory." The incident takes place as Israel faces increasing pressure to end the fighting in Gaza. The government reportedly submitted a proposal to Hamas through Qatari and Egyptian mediators that included a 2-month ceasefire in exchange for all Israeli hostages. Hamas said it won't accept any deal without a permanent ceasefire. In Brussels Monday, the European Union pushed for a two-state solution despite Israel's repeated rejections to the plan.
The solution for sustainable, lasting peace that ensures security not only by military means, but by living side by side with its neighbors would involve the setting up of a Palestinian state.
Meanwhile, distraught relatives and supporters of the hostages disrupted a Knesset committee meeting on Monday, demanding the government make any deal to release their loved ones, and protested at the Prime Minister's home later.
What happened today at the Knesset was an expression of immense sorrow and pain that cannot longer be contained, and we're no longer asking for pity. We're asking for actions.
Netanyahu told families that Hamas has not made any real proposal to secure the release of their loved ones.
And Julie Stahl joins us now with more. So we're going to talk about the hostage situation in just a moment. But first, I want to begin. If you could tell us more about the deaths of these 21 Israeli soldiers, will this increase pressure for a ceasefire?
You know, just after this news was released, Efrem, that the IDF sent out a press information that Israel had surrounded Khan Yunis, which is a Hamas stronghold in Gaza, and in battles had killed dozens of terrorists yesterday. Now, that might increase international pressure, but in any case, the pressure is already on for a ceasefire. For whatever reason, the international community wants a ceasefire, even though Israel has told them it's a non-starter, not till they know that Hamas is done with. We don't know what all the reason is behind it, whether they really, want good for the Palestinians, or they think it would be good if Hamas was left in charge, or that Hamas can be moderated. We don't know. Or perhaps they just don't want to deal with the one that's really behind Hamas, which would be Iran.
Now, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is still promising total victory against Hamas. Does the government have public support to press ahead in the war?
You know, as we said, all those that were killed in that, most of those in the Israeli casualty toll, they were reservists, which means they're a bit older. They're increasing the possibility that they're also leaving widows and orphans behind, as well as parents and siblings. But, you know, Israelis understand what this war is about. And I don't think that the losses in battle would be a cause for them to back down. The Prime Minister has said, you know, Israel would learn the lessons from this incident and they would keep fighting. And I think most Israelis, as painful as it is, would agree.
Now, you showed video of the protests in the Israeli Knesset and at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence. How strong is the public pressure in Israel to see the hostages freed?
You know, Israelis are extremely family-oriented. When something happens to one person, the whole country mourns, the whole country gets involved. But having said that, these protests that are, you know, demanding the release of the hostages at all costs, some say that they're being funded by the same people that were funding the anti-Netanyahu protests before the war began. So I'm not really sure that the families are thinking about that too much, or if they're necessarily on the same page. They want their family members back. But the government says that, you know, they're working on it. So it's a tough one. The flip side of that is that Israelis know if the war stops now just to get the hostages back, and I don't mean just to get the hostages back, but if they stop the war in order to get the hostages back and they can't continue with the goal of defeating Hamas, then there's likely going to be more incidents like this in the future.
Now, Europe is threatening consequences for Israel if it rejects a Palestinian state. What could that mean for Israel?
You know, Ephraim, Europe is Israel's biggest trading partner. In 2022, there was $50 billion in trade with Europe. So that could have an impact if they decided to boycott Israel or something like that. You know, the European Union is talking about imposing a solution from the outside on Israel. And it's like, wait a minute, Israel's a sovereign nation. How could you impose a solution like that and force Israel to recognize a terror state on its border? You know, I think Israel is not going to be forced into it. I think most Israelis, you know, worked on the Oslo Accords and all giving the Palestinians land. Most of the people that were hurt, kidnapped, injured, killed, you know, on October 7th had been helping Palestinians. They were all in favor of peace. Somebody told me that the other day, you know, 18 years ago when Israel pulled out of the Gaza Strip, that she thought, oh, this is it. We're going to have peace now. And look what happens. Okay, it took 18 years, but that was also 18 years of rockets. And I don't know, tell me which Western nation would put up with 18 years of rockets and an attack like October 7th and then agree to have a you know, oh, well, let's give them a state. So, I don't think that it will be that easy for Europe to impose that on Israel. There's a lot of factors at play.
Indeed, there are. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl joining us from Jerusalem. Thank you so much for your insight, and we are continuing to pray that you guys stay safe there. Coming up, we're going to turn our coverage to here at home, where former President Donald Trump is looking to take another major step forward to securing the Republican nomination in the New Hampshire primary. It's happening today, while President Joe Biden is looking to make abortion access a key element of his campaign. We're going to bring you those stories when we come back. You're watching CBN News Watch.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
Former President Donald Trump is aiming to secure a commanding victory in the New Hampshire primary. Trump's only remaining rival is Nikki Haley, who served as his ambassador to the United Nations. All 6 of the registered voters in tiny Dixville Notch cast their votes for Haley overnight, but Trump holds a commanding lead over her in state polls. If Trump wins, he would be the first Republican presidential candidate to win open races in Iowa and New Hampshire since both states began leading the election calendar in 1976. And it would be another major step toward a rematch between him and President Biden. Meanwhile, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are kicking off their 2024 campaign by putting abortion access front and center. While they're betting big on abortion rights, galvanizing voters to head to the polls in November, pro-life advocates believe the issue should be a top priority, too. CBN White House correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us the story.
President Biden and Vice President Harris will make their first joint 2024 campaign appearance in Northern Virginia today. They're focusing on reproductive rights as their campaign makes extensive ad buys in swing states, highlighting what they claim are Republicans' extreme views on abortion.
We need leaders that will protect our rights and not take them away. And that's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Biden met with members of his task force on reproductive rights on Monday, the anniversary of Roe v. Wade.
Congress must codify Roe v. Wade for all the states in America. Stop playing politics with a woman's lives and freedom.
While Harris went to Wisconsin in her first stop on a national reproductive rights tour.
In the United States Congress, extremists are trying to pass a national abortion ban to outlaw abortion in every single state.
Pro-life advocates want to see the issue front and center, too.
We cannot hide away from the issue of pro-life. Even recent polling shows that Americans want significant limits on abortion by the first trimester, right around there. So we have really got to work with that and help people understand that this is important and there is consensus if we work for it.
While Biden and Harris both claim abortion is a losing issue for Republicans, Evie Osment from Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America tells CBN News that in recent elections, abortion rights groups dramatically outspent pro-life groups and used deceptive ads to sway public opinion.
Ohio, in particular, they declared to women across the state that if you don't vote for this, you will not be able to get miscarriage care. That is so misleading and a blatant lie that the Ohio AG had to come out and speak out against it. So we have got to fight back against these lies and the fear-mongering from the left and pro-abortion side.
Jeannie Mancini from March for Life says there's a lot of confusion in our culture around abortion.
Really, the confusion is abortion good for women? And spoiler alert, it's not. We have our work cut out for us to change hearts and minds and to educate on this issue.
The pro-life movement is also working to educate the public about the free resources available before, during, and after pregnancy that support not just babies, but women too. Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Still ahead, the graveyard of pastors. See where Christians are beaten and imprisoned for sharing their faith. We're going to take you to India to expose who's trying to purge believers from their land. The story's coming up right after this. India's Prime Minister opened a controversial temple Monday dedicated to a Hindu deity. The temple is built on the ruins of an historic mosque. It's a political triumph for the populist leader who's seeking to transform the country from a secular democracy into a Hindu state. As CBN News has reported, a surge in violence against Christians has flared up in India, where millions believe the country belongs to Hindus. Many think all other religions must be eliminated from society, and several states have enacted laws to punish non-Hindus. George Thomas brings us the story from India.
At 16 years old, Paul was instructed to target Christians by the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS, a radical Hindu paramilitary organization.
Since I was a Hindu and part of the RSS, I became a staunch follower of their Hindu principles, and because of that, killing Christians and pastors became my goal.
We've concealed Paul's identity for safety. He says the RSS singles out Christians because so many Hindus in India are abandoning their faith to follow Jesus Christ. One of the group's early founders referred to Christians as anti-national and hostile and should be treated as such. RSS members seen here often combine religious Hindu education with self-defense classes and exercises.
They told us Christianity doesn't belong to a country because they are converting people. Therefore, we have to attack pastors and demolish their churches so that our country will remain a Hindu country.
Hindus make up just under 80% of India's population. Muslims are at 14%. Christianity is India's third largest religion, with about 26 million followers, or about 2.3% of the population, and their numbers are steadily growing. Determined to stop the growth, Paul thought he had his chance when a pastor visited his hostel. Instead, the encounter changed his life when the pastor shared the gospel with him.
My heart was breaking when I heard that Jesus Christ's blood was sacrificed for me, that Jesus Christ loved me, and he gave his blood for my sins. I dedicated myself to Christ right there and then.
Paul now serves as a traveling pastor in remote areas of India's Karnataka state, often referred to as a graveyard of pastors because of the intense persecution Christians face here. His church is repeatedly attacked by RSS gangs. He's been put in prison for preaching, yet it hasn't stopped his ministry.
Even in jail, I felt God's love. Even though I received the beatings, I was rejoicing, and because of that, I am grateful to God.
India, with its 1.4 billion people, is the world's largest democracy. However, human rights and religious freedom advocates say democracy has been in retreat ever since the Hindu-led BJP government and its leader, Narendra Modi, took power in 2014.
It's really the most sophisticated government as far as restricting religious freedoms outside of China.
Dr. David Curry is a commission member of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. USCIRF has documented an unprecedented uptick in violence against Christians under Modi's rule. The majority of attacks carried out by RSS and other Hindu extremist groups with ties to the Prime Minister's political party. Modi is accused of fanning the flames of Hindutva, a radical ideology that teaches only Hindus are true Indians and that all other religions, especially Christians and Muslims, are foreigners who must be removed from society.
They have a goal to push Christianity out of India. They see India as the holy land of Hinduism, and they intend to force that to happen.
That includes passing laws that criminalize religious conversions, particularly targeting Christian and Muslim minorities. Last September, Karnataka became the 10th Indian state to pass these so-called anti-conversion laws, and with it carrying a 3 to 5 year prison term for anyone found guilty of illegally converting people to Christianity.
Ever since this anti-conversion law was passed, the authorities claim that we are forcibly converting people.
Joseph pastors in different cities and villages in Karnataka. We've taken similar precautions to protect his safety. He says RSS and other right-wing Hindu groups accuse him of converting Hindus by offering them money or other forms of bribes. He denies those charges.
When we started the ministry 35 years ago, we didn't have so many problems. Those days, we had religious freedom, but now we can't even talk, can't even give out a pamphlet, can't do anything. That's the situation that we find ourselves in today. Everyone has to run their churches with fear.
Like Pastor Paul, Joseph too has endured the wrath of Hindu radicals.
They've damaged my bicycles, set Bibles on fire, and burnt it. Come into our church during service and beat people up. The police have come to my house several times. I've been taken to the police station and repeatedly accused of forcing people to convert. They never have any evidence.
12 of India's 28 states, most of them ruled by Modi's BJP party, now have laws regulating religious conversions. These states have also witnessed a surge in mob violence against Indian Christians.
It is amazing how Christians are standing firm in their faith.
Don Shank heads up an organization that's been sharing the gospel primarily through Christian radio broadcasts in India since 1978. His group has documented cases where Hindu extremists have discriminated against new Christian converts. Authorities, especially at the village level, do little to nothing to protect the vulnerable believers.
It is amazing the number of people who are being banned from going to the village well, not allowed to purchase foods at the market, being chased out from being ostracized from family and community, to actually being beaten, being killed, having their property destroyed.
Although the Constitution gives Christians the right to preach, Shank says the church in India must still be careful.
Pray for the believers to stand firm in their faith, and pray for those who are doing the persecution that their hearts will be changed, because we have seen that happen. A village priest threatened to smash a radio that somebody was using for outreach, but as he made those threats, he also came close and listened to the radio, and he himself embraced Jesus Christ as his Savior.
George Thomas, CBN News, Karnataka, India.
We'll be right back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time for your Tuesday Tweetable. Here's a message I hope delivers a bright spot to you and that you will post, tag, share, and tweet with those in your circles of influence. There are two things God cannot do. He cannot lie, and he cannot fail. Hold fast to all of his promises. If he said it, he will do it. His word is final. We must believe it. If he started it, he will complete it. With that word and his promises, make this a terrific Tuesday, and be sure to have yourself a wonderful rest of the week. That will do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online. The address for that is cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can do that by emailing us. The address is newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.